it's an asset. Its price is unpredictable. It's a random walk. If you own it, you hope it goes up, you're bullish, fine. But, there is no guaranteed crystal ball, especially now that it's a $2 trillion asset or what have you. It's certainly, I guess there's 21 million Bitcoin, right? It's hard for things to go that asymptotic. And I almost feel like at this point, like a strategic Bitcoin reserve and or the other possible bull cases for Bitcoin are somewhat baked in, like they're very known. So what surprise do we have left if you're bullish on Bitcoin? I was long a lot in the 70,000 range when I was personally pitching the strategic Bitcoin reserve to the Trump administration. It felt like, that could be a big catalyst, but, it didn't really, it's not consensus. And if that's not a catalyst, I don't know what is. I kind of look at the world that way. Like, if the supply-demand imbalance is that tight, that like news of a Bitcoin strategic reserve purchased by world governments and corporations is like, okay, I'm just going to rally 20%. That's it? It just sort of means that everyone's on the sell side of the transaction. They're like, okay, I'm out. So I think there's a little bit of that happening. I want to see Bitcoin be the one world global currency. But the funny thing about that is it doesn't mean the price of Bitcoin has to go up. In fact, we could completely replace our monetary system and Bitcoin doesn't have to change a penny. There's just not that much liquid cash out there. And when you price things in Bitcoin instead of dollars, the amount is arbitrary. You're really pricing dollars. So I don't know, I'm a little confused by some of it. And some of it is just like indulging a bit of a fantasy just to indulge it. But I'm a bit skeptical. But again, the nice thing is it's an arbitrage, right? You can short MicroStrategy and long Bitcoin. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, how can he outpace, by borrowing money, how can he outpace your purchase of Bitcoin? Especially if you do 2-to-1 ratio. So you basically get a free put in Bitcoin. If Bitcoin drops, he gets hit way harder than you're long. So yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin can keep going up, but I still think you get your ARB. I'm short Cassava, short MicroStrategy, short DJT. I'm starving for some longs. There's some good Pharma longs. There's this little never do well company that makes their own GLP called Viking. They're okay. But we can look at some other stocks. I don't know. There's a lot of people who want to look at stocks. I'm going to go to this requests thing and do one by one. This is some software I built called 𝗏𝗏 that's hoping to take on Bloomberg. Okay, so the question is, what is your take on RX and tech bio in general? Okay. So this is something a lot of people don't understand. It's going to piss some people off, especially some friends of mine in Silicon Valley. The biotech industry bottleneck is not in the technology. The bottleneck is in the clinical development. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to hear. There's these companies like 𝗏𝗏 and others that are like doing very cool preclinical tools. But once those tools are done, you have to develop the drug the normal way, which is like phase 1, phase 2, etc. So there's nothing special about having like a good set of tools. People have been doing machine learning, I hate to tell you this, in drug discovery for a really long time. This isn't new to us, and it doesn't help that much. So I'm really, sort of skeptical of assigning value, like actual value, to any company that's just like parading that they're going to do ML to make drugs, because you don't need ML to make drugs. The best chemists I have just work by hand, like pen and paper. I was okay. I mean, some of them have upgraded to looking at protein structures online, or on the computer, but it really is not, AI doesn't solve everything. It's the bigger use of AI in medicine is actually controlling through PubMed. That's where GPT and O1 and stuff like that is really helpful, but I don't think it's that helpful to actually do the drug discovery side. And I know people are trying to do like protein language models or whatever, large protein models. I think some of this stuff is a little nonsensical. We have had things like Amber and GROMACS for a long time. Like, it's a different, you're trying to put a screwdriver to something that's not a screw. And that's a temptation in technology all the time, but does it actually make sense? And I think you can't ask NVIDIA people that, as smart as they are. You have to ask drug people that, like real dyed-in-the-wool Pfizer guy or Merck guy, and just be like, hey, I want to show you this idea, et cetera, et cetera. And if 20 minutes later, if they're not doing cartwheels, it's not going to change the pharma world. And I guarantee you they're not doing cartwheels. Because the hard part is still discovery biology and what target am I going after and what do I see in the clinic, and that kind of stuff is the hard part. You can throw all the GPUs in the world at this problem and it's not going to work. It will work for helping the biology. I think that's cool, but I'm not sure it works for, actually, AI drugs are not a thing. I do think there'll be a drug discovered soup to nuts by AI, but I think that's a different thing than what most of these companies are pushing. Yeah, so this company's kind of fake. Yeah, let's go to their website. Oh, I think I'm banned from using a lot of these websites because I was spamming the 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗧𝗏. Yeah, there you go. I was spamming the 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 with a Python script I wrote to. So anyway, our AI-driven drug discovery pipeline. But the problem is, like, half of their drugs are not even AI discovered. So CDK7, like all of Pharma has one of these. You don't need AI for that. I don't think they used AI. CDK12, or no, RMB39. Okay, could be more interesting. MALT1, other people are doing MALT, and it's not too exciting. LSD1 is really bad. Nobody wants that. This drug was not discovered by AI. It's an old drug. MEK is really old. So like this AI drug company, none of this stuff is actually exciting. HDAC's really old. ENPP1 is another target that people have known about. I was working on ENPP1 10 years ago. So, I'll look at this one, which looked okay. Identified by the Recursion OS. Like this. The Recursion OS. Like, look, I'm all for using technology in creative ways, but it's just not happening anytime soon. Yeah, I like Viking. No, ML in finance, people have used ML in finance successfully. And they will continue to do that. Deep learning is going to transform finance quite a lot, I think. I think Neumora and Anavex are both companies that have some valuation issues, but I don't know which one is a better short, or like if I would short a lot. Like, I'm not that confident yet. So calm down and wait for more research. Trust me, I'll let you know if I have a really high conviction idea. You don't want to force things when you invest. If you force things, you sort of end up losing money because you can't force profits. I used to try to do that. It's just not wise. Forcing the issue is the market's not going to cooperate. The market will absorb you, and that'll be that. The pharma market cap is over $5 trillion. So if you take all pharma companies combined, it's like one Google plus one Microsoft. Interesting way to look at it. What's really interesting is Novo Nordisk, because theoretically, Ozempic's going to have patent expiry. That's kind of a bad thing. It's really their main thing. So we should look at that. What do you guys think? It's Denmark's pride, $500 billion company, the second biggest pharma in the world. SharkNinja Inc. I mean, that's a pretty awesome name, actually. Bristol Myers is up a ton. I guess that's because Cobenfy is not going to have a competitor. Regeneron is down a ton. A lot of people want me to look at Regeneron. Maybe we should. 756. Well, Eylea is going generic, so that's kind of like a big problem for them. All these companies think that diversification is a bad thing, and then it hits them like, oh yeah, it would have been nice to have two drugs. Regeneron has Dupixent, which is one of the greatest drugs ever made. But again, Eylea is still economically very important to them. The thing about drugs that you need to know is that pharmaceuticals, once prescribed, very rarely will stop being prescribed. Yeah, I put out an ad last night, Temporal, for a back-end developer. So we use your typical financial sort of large data stack. So that's Spring Boot, Kotlin. We use this database called ClickHouse. Yeah, I'm long. I like Moderna. I like Viking. We bootstrap. I want to show you guys some quantitative investing. Maybe even use some of the APIs to show you that. Yeah, the front end is just React and vanilla JavaScript. Sounds like a soul-draining job. I don't think so. I think working with me is one of the most exciting things you could do with your life. If you want to build something that's worth billions of dollars, choose your own destiny in life, earn 5% of that billions of dollars, make hundreds of millions of dollars for yourself, building something that nobody thought you could build, working with a team of teammates that are like, almost like family, working day and night to see how you can outfox gigantic companies and watch it happen before your eyes. It's one of the most exhilarating things in the world. I mean, I'm addicted to it. I almost never want. Oh, okay. I almost never want to give up being an entrepreneur because it's so much fun to watch something to go from 0 to 1. It's like the greatest privilege in the world, and probably more fun than the money is watching the young guys who are really making the things happen take risks, hustle, watching them make bets, sometimes betting their whole life on something, an architecture or a feature or whatever. And they make this big bet and they earn it. And there's nothing that brings me more joy. I get tingly even talking about it, like signing that equity check over of like 1% or 2% of the company or whatever it is a bonus. And it's like, this is like $60 million or something, and it's just like, you earned it. So it's a really fun job from my perspective. And certainly doing something that I love, is a lot of fun too. I can't believe how much Chegg has risen since we started buying it. It's probably not a buy anymore, just because it's gone up so much. And I think a lot of people invent new reasons to own a stock. You have to really avoid doing that. People do this all the time. They buy a stock, say for like Chegg for $1.50, and it goes up to $2.30, and then they're like, well, at $1.50, they're like, yeah, I'm really hoping to get like $2.50. And when it hits almost $2.50, you're like, yeah, I'd really like to see 3 or 4 because, and you just come up with new reasons. And it's a really stupid thing to do. Just sell, it's okay to just sell. When you get married to a stock, you lose a lot of money. When you marry someone you love, don't marry a stock. They're not going to love you back. AVXL, I looked at it. I'm going to look at it really carefully. It looks like a total scam, I have to tell you. But there's a big difference between looks like and actually diving in and really, really having the conviction. There's 2 really different things. There's a lot of stuff that looks like a scam. You don't just look at something for 10 minutes and make it, some crazy sized position. I think, I'm going to take my time looking at that. It certainly looks like a low science, low credibility approach that's like just not sophisticated, and it kind of does look like the next cassava, to be honest, but I'll let you know when I feel like it's really in dire straits. I'm not even sure I believe in the whole sigma receptor thing, to be frank. So that's, kind of one of the biggest things I think nobody's really looked at on this thing. I'm a little suspicious about sigma. I know they've been sort of advancing that idea for a long time, but I'm not sure the biology is there on sigma. So that's where I want to spend a bunch of time. And then on the clinical trials, like, we don't have any visibility. Like, we're not getting these NDAs. We're not seeing the raw data. And it looks like the raw data is, subject to interpretation according to them. So that's dangerous, to the least. But yeah, I'm sort of struggling to find good longs. Like TARS was a good long, and TARS went up by 2x. And then ADMA is still a good long, I think. But it's not like the home run of home runs. Biohaven is actually pretty interesting. Although they dropped a drug yesterday, Biohaven is actually kind of cool. What else? Yeah, there's some interesting software companies. As I learn that sector more and more, I have been doing pretty well in that sector. But yeah, Regeneron could be the one to like really spend some time on, because let's see what happens to Regeneron if Eylea disappears. Okay, so This is my Regeneron model. All these models, by the way, are on my GitHub, so they're totally free. They're just my notes and analysis of earnings and stuff like that. So let's see what happens to 𝗓𝗢𝗓 if 𝗓𝗢𝗓 gets a biosimilar next year. Oops. I'm on a laptop, so I'm not going to be wizard on Excel right now. So all of you people who expect that, my typical Excel wizardry, you're not going to see it. Okay, so they reported Q3. I don't know what they reported, by the way. But let's fill in some numbers. Let's just assume it was flat. Oh, they have 𝗓𝗓𝗓 HD now. Forgot about that. Okay, let's just assume that. 𝗏𝗏𝗘 is actually selling okay. Praluent should be selling better because Amgen's version of that is selling really well. If 𝐾𝐸 is not worth anything. Okay, so it's really the Sanofi Dupixent kind of relationship that's doing really, really well. So Bayer is also, that revenue is also going to dry up. So what do we have at Regeneron without 𝗓𝗓𝗓? That is basically the analysis that we have to do. And we will do that. And my guess is it'll be roughly the current stock price. That is the upshot. You know, when you do this kind of analysis, unfortunately, you can do this really exhaustive analysis, and 90% of the time, the stock price you predict is going to be the stock price that it is. And why is that? Markets are efficient. You know, there's not much else to it. There's buildings full of people looking at Regeneron every day. You know, they're going to mostly get it right. It's a stock market. That's just what it is. All right. So we'll do some little calculations like this. And we'll try to like get a core Dupixent value. Eventually Dupixent will go generic too. You know, as a kid, I used to look at these antibody companies and say, oh, it's never going to go generic. It's changed. That's, those days are over. All right, let's go to 2035. Assume 𝗓𝗓𝗓 becomes like irrelevant. I guess I should superimpose like how Herceptin and Rituxan are doing at Roche. Let's assume that Sanofi gets more Dupixent. Tendies, is that what Alex Carp says? Is really funny. It's like super serious company. He's like, the Tendies will be ours. I mean, it's awesome, but it's also like, yes, sir, the Tendies are here. Very well. Meeting with the CIA as a client. They're like, so what are Tendies anyway? Chicken Tendies, sir. This feels like painting to me. Just like happy little numbers, happy little trees. Okay, so this is kind of what I sometimes call a runoff model. So basically, in the company right now, harvest everything. What does that cost? Or what is that worth? And that's one way to do an analysis. It's not the best way, by the way. There's lots of other ways to do it, but it's a good starting point, right? Like the worst case scenario is it's worth this much. That's kind of, I think, a decent way to look at it. So in these runoff models, you don't include R&D as an expense because R&D isn't really an expense. It's more of an investment. And this company has really remarkable cost structure. Like, in fact, Sanofi really, Sanofi's really footing the bill for marketing, right? So do we have any costs? I think this is generous enough, but that's an interesting question. Okay, we do pay taxes in Trump's America, I think. But all other manufacturing is in like Ireland or something, so let's assume that's the tax rate. Now at maturity, we're going to assume cash flow drops by, say, 3% a year. Okay, and then our discount rate, pharmaceuticals have very low discount rates. That's one of the advantages of this industry is that, again, once you're on a pill or an injection, you're not going to stop taking it for the love of God. Just because it's what keeps you healthy. It takes a lot to move somebody off a drug. Let's see. Again, I'm on Mac, so I'm kind of in Excel hell right now, but all right. Moment of truth. All right, so not a lot actually. Less than I thought. And then we have to add the company's cash and other assets. So that includes like pipeline and whatever. So if you add the cash and subtract the debt, you're basically getting to their market cap. Again, my suspicion was that this would be fairly valued. And it roughly is. Our calculation was 79 billion, the market's 87. And we're not including pipeline, which their pipeline's okay, I guess. I have to look at their most recent pipeline. Some of those pipeline assets are old. If Eylea drop-off, I guess, isn't as fast. Let's say this like HD guy drops off really slowly, and I don't know. This is when you start to like poison your model, and you know, I want it to be higher. Even here, you don't get some massive share price. So you need something to come through in the pipeline. And well, we can look at the pipeline. I mean, that's not too hard. Again, I need a new IP address because of this. Let's look at these drugs one by one. Okay, birch allergy. Okay, they should not be developing that drug. Birch allergy is not gonna work. This is Antillia's drug. You guys know I have a history with that company. The CD3 bispecifics are kind of like everyone's got them. IL-33 could be okay. 𝗥𝗏𝗙𝐻 has been around. I don't think pozelimab is going to do very well. This drug's not going to do well. This drug's probably not going to do well. Myostatin's back. Could myostatin work for obesity? That's what I think Novo Nordisk has one too. That could be interesting. Okay, factor 11 sucks. TMPR S6 probably wouldn't be a big drug regardless. Some of these drugs could add up. IL-2, so dead. Okay, NPR1. I don't know what that is. Leptin receptor antibody. Hasn't that been tried? Oh, HSD is back. HSD 17. I don't know if anybody is old enough to remember 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏. This pipeline kind of sucks. But all it takes is one drug that we didn't anticipate. Kind of tough being antibody shop right now. Yeah, I don't see anything really exciting here. Gene silencing for Huntington with Alnylam, maybe. They need a pipeline. They need an acquisition. Yeah, at this rate, Regeneron's kind of a dog. That's a shame. HUMA's a short. HUMA's a fake company. HUMA's a totally fake company. I do want to like get my thoughts together on that one, but like HUMA's this like really fake weird company. But I might want to build a big position first because it's basically this company that has this like fake vein graft that they want to sell for this exorbitant amount, but it's never proven that it's better than a plastic vein graft. So plastic vein grafts are somewhat useful and they're very, very like dependable. So, and they're cheap. And hospitals are really notoriously like dislike drugs that are like not, I'm sorry, devices and products that aren't like super cost effective. So they're not going to be interested in, you know, this kind of a product unless it's really cost effective. So HUMA's a weird one where they're supposed to have approval, but they don't. And it's just like really weird situation that they're in. Yeah, no, we could definitely do that, Michael. We'd do whatever. For the right person, we'll do whatever. I'll jump through hoops. Just send me an email. Most promising drug in development? I'm not sure even how to answer that. There's a lot of cool drugs. I don't get that many emails a day. I do want to look at Gilead and Vertex. Gilead 92.46, Vertex 464. I already updated those prices at least. But yeah, it's amazing how Regeneron has slid, but it's still not that attractive unless they can show that Eylea curve, erosion curve is going to be okay, or that they have an actual pipeline that's worth something. Sad, because I always like Regeneron. They're the Genentech of the East.